2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple, who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy. The best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us. How can sex be a benefit or a detriment to healing after betrayal? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin. What's up, Tyler?
Brannon, I am so relieved to see you today with your mustache shaved off.
Oh, come on, man. Oh, you know what? You got to mix it up a little. You're too vanilla for too long. Like, grow that gray beard out like far or something.
You know what's funny, Brannon? This is actually kind of might get into like even our topic a little bit today, but I was talking to my wife just like 3 days ago, and I had a beard for like the whole last year. You saw it. And it makes me look like 20 years older. And I shaved it like 2 weeks ago. And when I shaved it, my wife came back to me and she said, Tyler, I like your beard way better than you clean shaven. And I said, well, I hate my beard. It makes me look old and it's scruffy. And she said, yeah, but I actually get turned on by you more when you have a beard than when you don't. So you can see I've already started to grow this back out again.
And that's the magic word she had to say. It was like, hey, I'm growing the beard out. Like,
right,
not even thinking about it.
I'll grow it all the way down to my belly button now if I need to. So
the power of a woman. Wow.
It's the truth, man.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, speaking of that, we're talking about sex today and relationships. And we have a special guest with us here today. So, Tyler, do you want to introduce him?
Yeah, we have. Actually, we're really fortunate to have Corey Allan on with us. He's a doctorate marriage and family therapist. He actually has a top 10 podcast called the Sexy Marriage Radio Podcast with his wife, Pam. And he's been willing to come on the show with us today and talk a little bit about sex and how to manage sex after betrayal and how to have it either be helpful or harmful. So, Dr. Corey, thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, I'm excited, and I got to jump into the beard talk because I just shaved. I had goatee for like 20 years, and I shaved it like a month ago.
No way.
I just have kept it ever since, and everybody's like, "Something's different about you." I'm like, "Yeah, no goatee." Oh, okay.
there you go.
So, Tyler, should we get into it here?
Yeah, let's go.
So, we were just talking with Corey about how, we talk a lot about betrayal, and I think one of the trickiest parts of recovery within the relationship is sex, and sexuality can be so important and such an opportunity for growth and healing and it can also be so destructive and such a problem. So we want to talk about specifics in terms of what is healthy. How do you, after going through broken trust and betrayal, where do you even start in order to have sex be a good thing in the relationship? So, any thoughts on that, Corey?
Well, yeah, I mean, so the way you're phrasing this, Brandon, is interesting because when you're talking about how do I get to where I can be at a level where sex can be a good, beneficial, healthy thing, that presupposes before betrayal it actually was a good and beneficial and healthy thing.
Right.
And because sex is on a continuum in a lot of ways of there's I categorize things in a lot of instances because it just helps make sense of things. But there's basically three categories. There's the dysfunctional sex that couples have. There's the functional sex that couples have. And then there's the blessed few. And the terminology is just exactly what it sounds like, except most people don't understand what the blessed few means, because it's harder to actually enter into that category. It requires more of us. It's not about technique and what you do or don't do. It's about who you are in the midst of doing and not doing whatever it is you choose to do as a couple. So most people wind up and find ourselves in the functional level where the goal is largely just pleasure or orgasm. It's not usually really connection, even though we try to fool ourselves thinking that's what it is. It's really about, I just want to feel good for a little bit. I want to relieve some anxiety. I want to reach a climactic level of orgasm for one or both of us. And then I want to move on about my day or go to sleep. And that's not really a connective event. And I think a lot of times couples don't realize early on in a relationship, and even as it evolves, we get glimpses of deep, meaningful times, which is what makes us come back to it. But to get there requires more of ourselves than it does of my spouse. And a lot of times I won't show up as well as I need to, or, to go with Tyler's intro, I shave the beard because I feel old and I'm not quite sure I feel good about myself. But then I hear from my wife, I like you looking old. Well, now I'm not quite sure how I feel about myself in the midst of that. I mean, it's exposing something.
Yeah.
And when more of that is evident, I think couples can be empowered to lean into the growth process that marriage is, the growth process that sex in marriage is, because it's so much more profound than just an act.
I think you're hitting on something, Corey, that it repeats itself, at least in my practice, and I'm sure with Brannon's practice, over and over again when we deal with people who are going through infidelity or sexual compulsive behaviors or addictions, things like that, that right at the core, you said something that I think is really important, that the person who's struggling with whatever it is, whether it's the infidelity or something else, they don't even really know who they are. They don't even really know what love really means sometimes. And then they use the language of, they'll go to their partner and they'll say, like, sex is my language of connection. But then when it ends up being is when we do have sex, it's at best functional, maybe still in the dysfunctional range. And it never actually crosses over into that blessed few because there is a lack of understanding and giving of self. It's still a consumptive kind of a thing rather than a sharing, giving, offering of strength kind of a thing. Is that kind of what you're saying?
No, absolutely. Because I think there's a lot of times where we're having sex more out of emptiness than we are out of fullness, is another way to frame exactly what you're describing. That, sex is this is one of the things I love to kind of poke at a little bit. Well, my love language is touch and quality time, AKA sex. Yeah. Well, okay. That's not really your love language, most likely. That's the way you like to escape from life for a little while. That's because if you really were exposed in a sexual encounter, like if your spouse really showed up in a way that's like, you know what, I want to try this. It freaks us out initially. And we don't think of it as a scary thing, but it actually kind of is. I used to get pushback early on in Sexy Marriage Radio when I said this. And now I've got some of an audience that recognizes what I'm talking about. But I think for men, tell me if I'm off on the way you guys hear this too, if you agree or disagree. I think for a husband, if a wife really showed up with all of her presence and all of her sexual prowess and all of her superpower manifested in a really good erotic way, it would scare a husband. I think most husbands, they tell me like, oh no, I would love that. I'd welcome. Like, no, I think if she actually did, because it's so foreign, we can't understand or comprehend a woman's sex drive because it's so much more powerful than a man's most of the time. It's just not talked about as such.
Right. But the way it wouldn't scare him is if he would, like, his masculinity, he was strong enough in his masculinity to hold that, and then together, then that's the, what'd you call it, the blessed few, right? Like,
yeah, I think I would challenge the terminology though. I think he'd have to be strong enough in his femininity to receive what she's bringing at him.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
Because that's the energies of masculine, feminine that are in every single human. And so most men, we get so much identity and value, quote unquote, out of I'm in charge, I'm the higher, I'm the, I lead this, rather than, no, how do I receive this without feeling emasculated or weak or insecure, rather than, no, I can just kind of let myself go and and receive what's coming at me. That's a really difficult thing to learn sometimes.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about, if we could take a step back, because I think as you're talking, it's hard for a lot of people to grasp what you're actually talking about. Okay. Because it's like, you don't know what you're talking about unless you've experienced something like that. And if we could back up a little bit and just talk about dysfunctional sex, what is that? What is sex that's not helpful for healing, for the relationship? What does that look like?
Well, a lot of times, I mean, you mentioned dysfunctional, right? To start, and then we'll go up the chain, if you will. Okay. So dysfunctional oftentimes is exactly what it sounds like, where there's a dysfunction in the way somebody operates. Some of it can be biological. If it's ED, it's premature ejaculation, it's delayed ejaculation, it's poor lubrication, it's lack of arousal, it's anxiety leading to even vaginismus levels and pain and discomfort. I mean, so that's a dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And so bear in mind, guys, and for the audience too, I think it matters that when I refer to sex, I'm not just talking about intercourse. I'm talking about the entirety of our being that encapsulates this aspect of our life and our relationships. So it's how am I framing myself and creating a relationship with that? So dysfunctional is that, but it's also, we're getting closer to the functional level where it can be enjoyable. It's mainly one-sided. That's dysfunctional in my book. It's all about watching his meter. That's one of the phrases I hear so much that I hate hearing it, because it's
what do you mean by that? What do you mean?
I have a lot of wives that will come into my practice that'll talk about they're aware of his sex meter, of his ejaculation meter. It's been a while, so I need to make sure I perform.
And that's what their sex life is.
Yeah, it's all based on him and his inability, and I'm meaning this bluntly, to control and steer a desire in a good way. Because I think a lot of times what men have done that have really gotten into the world of affairs and addictive things as far as pornography or even other things is they've sexualized things that aren't sexual. If I'm reaching out for sex because I'm stressed, that's not sexual. That's coping. That's not bringing the best in me to that event. That's bringing a hidden, veiled side of me that I want her to calm down and prop me up with. And it's like, that's a ridiculous request if I look at it objectively. Mm-hmm. And I think a grown, mature woman eventually will reach a point of, I'm not going to keep doing that, which now they both are in a quandary of what does this mean for us? So that's the dysfunctional. The functional is you both can operate relatively frequently as you see it. Because again, I hate the word normals but it's on a rhythm you choose. You can both likely achieve orgasm. There's arousal. There's the whole Masters and Johnson phases that you follow, and that it can be fairly reliable, but it's not as usually connective. There's moments and glimpses of it, and it's fun and it's enjoyable and it serves a purpose. Let's not kid ourselves. Functional level sex, even dysfunctional level sex, serves a purpose in a relationship.
Right.
Because it is worth noting, a truism I believe in is that every normal human being that's healthy will have dysfunction in their sex life at some point if they haven't already.
Yep.
You'll have a time where it just didn't work right. What happened? Or I wasn't there. Or I couldn't get in. I couldn't get my head in the game. Or that's normal. That's a healthy human being actually. That's just what happens with life.
Yep.
And so the functional is just like what that sounds like. And then the blessed few, typically the way I think of that is this is the level where the couple, both spouses are much more comfortable in their own skin. They know who they are and they know who they're not. They're capable of showing up. If something goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. They recover quickly and keep going. You pull a hamstring by trying some move and you're like, whoa, hold on. and you kind of calm down, you relax, and then you connect again and you keep going maybe.
Yeah.
Or something doesn't work right, because I came across, this is not probably a scientific stat, but I came across somebody that threw out the idea of when you come across all the ideas of what we can do in our sex lives, we can probably only do maybe 20 to 30% of it. because some of the stuff's like my body just doesn't do that, Right. I'm just not capable. If you're old like me, I'm afraid I'm going to pull something in some positions. I just can't do it anymore. Like, yeah, all right. So we start figuring out what works, and it's not so much of a goal. It's the event together. It's not goal oriented as much as it is just a time and space together, and there's a follow the connection within it and a freedom in it. And so they're not clear cut. Hey, we all need to strive for. It's more, how do I get better at recognizing where am I?
Yep.
So I can then make the better step forward with whatever that might be.
I love what you're saying here, Dr. Corey. I'm wondering here, just some other language that we use a lot in our realm is this blessed view. I hear growth mindset in that. I hear practice. Mm-hmm. I hear engagement. I hear willingness to have it not go right, willingness to learn, willingness to grow. And it seems as though in a relationship, maybe back to what you were saying about like the full expression of a female's sexuality scaring a man. I think another reason why it would scare him is because it would also demand of him that he would have to receive it in ways that he would have to be vulnerable himself too.
Yeah.
And it seems that when there's been a breach of trust in the relationship, of course, the very first thing that goes out the window are words like safety and trust.
Yep.
And that's the part that is necessary to be able to move into that blessed few category, it seems.
It is. And then the interesting thing with the way I think about this is safety and trust always, in my belief, come after vulnerability, not before. And that's where the betrayal becomes such a wedge, because it's like, I can't trust you. Well, yeah, you can't. That's true. That is absolutely a true statement. Question becomes, can you trust yourself better?
Yep.
Can I be more vulnerable with myself better? Because then I learn to create that innate safety from me to be able to do what's necessary in response to whatever just happened or what does happen.
So I want to ask you, I want to give you a scenario here and just get your take on it. What we see a lot of times is, you're absolutely right. Usually
Brannon,
intimacy. Oh, yeah.
Before you do the scenario, I hope our listeners will go back and listen to what he just said, because he just said something vitally important about how to heal from betrayal. And it's about learning to trust self as much as it is learning to trust your partner again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my scenario is it goes down those lines of what we see a lot of times is usually sex and intimacy is dysfunctional. And then we call it discovery day, or something happens where it's like, oh, I got cheated on, or I find something out and the betrayal happens. And a lot of times what that can do is it actually amps up focusing on his meter. So it's because now sex is this coping mechanism for fear. And so, they're using it, having sex, worried that they're going to get betrayed again. And it leads to feelings of resentment, feeling used, just feeling stuck in the whole scenario. And sex actually really becomes a problem between the couple in the relationship.
Yep.
And with that, is it good to take a break? Is it good to stop for a while, reset things, work on that trust and safety so that vulnerability can happen, so that good, functional, blessed few sex can happen? Like, what would you say about that? Like, where do you go with that?
Well, I don't know if I could say. I mean, in some instances, absolutely, taking a hiatus can be a good thing. It needs to be a mutually agreed upon thing. But that's also part of the problem, where the history of a lot of couples where there has been something like this, there's really not a lot of mutually agreed upon things.
Right.
It's usually tyranny of the lowest common denominator is what happens. That whoever has the lowest capacity to confront some things controls the things because it's their drive becomes the biggest issue, or their fear becomes the biggest issue, or their jealousy, whatever it might be. And that becomes the elephant in the room. And so I think of it more in the terms of, if you look at it simultaneously, what's going on in that scenario of, we'll play the scenario. The wife was the one that is the resolute spouse. I like that phrase rather than the betrayed spouse, because they have the power to determine, do I have the resolve to stay in this relationship or not? And when they can reframe their route, because one of the things in therapy I do with clients is, whenever I can hear, well, you keep this scenario, a wife, because this happens with husbands too. But whenever I can hear, I can't believe you did that to me. If I can hear that phrase, I have an in that I can start working. Because typically, and I don't tell me how this lands with you guys, because I don't know if you're familiar real well with this slightly different approach. I'm like, okay, what exactly did he do to you? You weren't there. You weren't involved at all. I'm curious, what did he do to you? Right? Because it wasn't most husbands I've come across in this scenario, and even wives, they don't wake up and go, I know how I can stick it to my spouse. I'll go cheat on him. They're not that blatantly cruel. They are cruel, which we all are as human beings,
right?
But they're not that blatantly cruel typically, because if that was the case, that marriage would have been over sooner.
But Dr. Corey, I want to play devil's advocate, because I understand what you're saying.
Please.
But now, if I'm the resolute partner, I really like that term. Now as the therapist, you're just invalidating my pain. Like, they did do something to me. It feels like they did. And for you to tell me they didn't, like,
okay, but because
invalidating my pain.
Yep. The whole point is trying to present a third view where what's been happening is there's been too much validation seeking from both of them from each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not from myself first, because I need it both. I need it from me and from my spouse, and there just needs to be a good harmony here. Because if you can get a client to recognize, okay, they didn't actually do anything to me, they did something to themselves, that I am collateral damage. This is where I validate the pain. What happened is you are now collateral damage of his choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how do you deal with being damaged from what all his choice was? Because it wasn't, and this is where it goes a variety of different ways, depending on how that starts to land. Because I ultimately want to get a spouse in that instance to really ask themselves a question of, what do I want to do in relationship to somebody that's willing to do that to themselves?
Yeah.
Because now you get a better power discrepancy. Because that's the scenario you painted for me of, now all of a sudden she's feeling like I better do everything in my power to make sure he doesn't do it again, which assumes he has no
That's over attachment.
Self-discipline.
Yeah.
No, yeah, has no self-control, has no self-respect. And that all may be true. But my hunch is that if that's true, that was there before the betrayal, but before the discrepancy happened, or discrepancy. I can't even say what I'm talking about. The indiscretion. There it is. Before that happened. So a lot of times, betrayals, stepping out, dabbling in porn, all the different things that people do to escape. That's a symptom of something that was already present.
Yep.
I love what you said there, and just drawing out a few principles for our audience to hear in what you said is that when you're saying what you just would say to maybe a betrayed partner or the resolute partner, what I'm hearing is what you're trying to say is trust yourself, take responsibility, take accountability, and you'll be able to see the landscape differently in a way that will actually empower you to now move forward in making the choices in the relationship, rather than constantly just being stuck in this place of being the victim, waiting for your partner to get better before you can move on and heal.
Right. Yeah. Because the ideal ultimate response from her would be she could clearly look her husband in the eye and say, you know what? I realize what went down. I don't at all like the choice and the impact it's had on me that you made. But I also realize the collusion I've done to help create a system that I've not shown up well. And so then it becomes a break. Like I'm not willing to participate in sex until I get my life back in order to figure out, do I really want to do this with the guy that would do something like that? That's a different approach completely, because he'd be like, oh, okay, hold on. Because now I'm not calling out what you did or beating you up with what you did. I'm just calling out the dynamic.
Yeah. I think it's like, it feels backwards a little bit. And we've dealt with this in that, like, okay, I'm the partner who's been betrayed or hurt or whatever. And what you're talking about is knowing where I stop and they begin, like really having my healthy sense of self and boundaries. And so I've been betrayed, and then let's say I blow up into fear and I'm like wanting to have sex because whatever. And for me to stop and say, whoa, like, me having all these emotions and this big reaction to this pain in my life is actually an opportunity for me to strengthen myself, to know myself, and to know how I want to operate in this relationship. And I think a natural response is to just get stuck in the emotion, just get stuck in the fear, stuck in the over-attachment to the partner, which can lead to all kinds of dysfunctional sex. And so what you're saying is so true, and also hard for people to actually grasp what you're actually saying. But that's where your power lies. Like that's where your opportunity lies for growth and moving forward and creating a healthy sex life and healthy intimacy in a relationship. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, I like to think of marriage as a visual picture of it. Is we often try to think of marriage as we're in a canoe, we're both in the same boat, and we're heading down the lake together. But in reality, no, we're more likely to kayaks alongside each other. And if I reach over and try to steer your boat under the name of love, that's not love, that's control. And so it's really, I have the chance to paddle alongside you, or get a little distance from you, or go into my own cove for a little while, or go all the way across the lake, put my boat on my truck and leap. So that's the better picture, in the sense of I am responsible for me. That's the self-respecting moves I need to always begin with, and then bring relationship moves into account with it, because it's not devoid of it. I mean, the big pushback I hear a lot of times when I'm talking to people that haven't heard this framework is, that sounds so selfish. Well, no, it's actually got a self-care first, and then relational care second, which that's the best gift I can give anybody is somebody to respect, let alone myself to respect. I mean, that's how it starts. I got to do self-respecting moves. That's one of my first questions I ask a lot is, what's your next best self-respecting move here in this situation?
That's great. I love that. if you don't mind, could I back up to something else you said here?
Sure.
And just maybe ask a little bit further on it too. You said, and fix the quote if I missed it, but I think you said something along the lines of, you can't really have safety and trust until after you've been vulnerable. Is that
right?
The essence of what you said?
Well, I mean, some of this is Brene Brown's statement of safety comes after vulnerability.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so that really caught me, because that seems to be really the pinch point that so many of the couples that we work with find themselves in. Is, here I am, I've been burned. I don't know that I want to lean in sexually with my partner until I can feel safety or trust, but that safety or trust may never come without some level of other vulnerability. So I'm just wondering, how do you help a couple who's in that position where there has been betrayal, there has been some kind of like infidelity, there is no longer safety and trust inside the relationship, and yet you're saying there might be certain conditions in certain couples where leaning into their sex life together, or is it other forms of vulnerability? Would help walk through that for our listeners?
That's a good question. Just to help clarify, there's an element of there likely still, if a relationship has the grit to still last and get through betrayals like that and infidelity like that, you're on the cusp of tasting life in ways that a lot of people don't.
Amen.
Because you reckon, and that's where the reason I know this and believe it, one, it's been in my life of a betrayal from me, of an affair. 6 years in, wife gave me the ring back, and I was like, not yet. Let me get my act in order. I got some growing up to do, which launched me on a 2-year path. She then had some graciousness alongside, but then she started really growing up, which challenged me. And then I grew up, she challenged her, so it's just kind of the whole process that's gone on for almost 31 years now. And there's likely still elements of safety and trust in some areas of the relationship. That's why we stay, right? We've created a life together. There's safety. I've got a financial portfolio, maybe. There's safety. We've got a family. That's safety. Now you got to get into the nuances of, okay, sexually, has there really been safety? Have I really shown up? Do I need you to help me feel safe before I do show up? If you start looking at that, so the vulnerability comes into play, where if they've had a normal pattern of sex has been just the meter mentality. So safety or vulnerability in that statement could be something like her saying, you know what, sex has not necessarily been anything that's been for me, and I'm not sure what to do with that yet. That's a very vulnerable statement.
Yeah.
My wife has said this to me. This was after coming out of my betrayal and working through some stuff. She was like, I actually think I do like sex. I just don't really like it with you. That was very, very vulnerable. And it wasn't a shot because it was truth. It was one-sided only. I was raised in this world of, well, you're just here for me.
Yeah.
What's the problem? I'm satisfied. Why aren't you? And it's just like, it's so demeaning to both of us if you look at it that way. So vulnerability doesn't necessarily mean I bear everything. When there's a chance of sex that could happen and I'm scared, vulnerability could mean, hey, this is an important part of our marriage and I'm scared heading into this. Because how he responds to that shows you his level of trustworthiness. Because if I don't settle myself well enough, I can't determine somebody's trustworthiness levels. I freak out and I try to control it rather than they'll tell me. they'll show me who they are, because it could just be, oh, well, now we're back in the pattern of normal sex. And if I have the courage to step up and say, wait, no, I don't want to do it this way anymore. I'm going to wreck what we've done at the risk of it could create something so much more sweet and tender for the both of us.
Yep.
Beautiful.
I think a lot of couples and a lot of people are in that dilemma where it's like, I just want to get off. Like, I'd love to use you, get off. Like, I know you'll give it to me, so why not? Like, versus like the elements of safety, trust, intimacy aren't there. Knowing that, recognizing that, doing that work with your partner, then to step into some really good sex. It
requires us to be collaborative with each other, which we have a hard time doing when we get really deep and intimate with each other. Yeah. It's so odd how that is, because a lot of times when I learn more about my wife, there's an element of it freaks me out. It scares me. I don't know if I want to I don't know if I wanted to know that about you, or that frustration, or that fear, because that's not even just sexual. That's just, man, why can't you just rather than, no, she just offered a good gift of herself in my presence. How can I handle that well?
Even if it's about you, even if she's like pissed at you, it's like a good gift. It's a good gift to know her better.
This is one of those little nice footholds we can get into it, is what we can find when we're in an argument with our spouse is how often, ask yourself this question, how often do I use where my spouse is wrong about me to avoid where they're right about me?
Yeah, why'd you have to say that? I don't want to hear that.
Exactly. But even if that where they're right is just 3% right, they're still right. And that usually is what elicits such a big reaction to me. It's like, how dare you point that out about me, because I don't like that about me. Well, of course they're going to see it, because we're married, and there's no cleaner mirror in the world than a spouse of ourself. And then the second best mirror is our kids. They just reveal things of us. Like, hey, where'd you learn that tone? Oh, wait, yeah, that's me. I taught you. Oh, yeah, you think I'm lazy. Oh, well, yeah, I can see how you think that. Yeah, like, man, if I can just have the courage to really face that, I set a limitless possibility of where my life can go, because now I can confront me in the presence of them. And when I can do that sexually, man, there's the blessed few entry.
Yeah.
I love that. And being able to, I'm picturing this wife coming to you and saying, I think I actually like to have sex, but not with you. The gift that she's offering is, if you don't get buried by your own shame, which is like, oh no, I'm so terrible. What's wrong? Like, why are you being so mean to me? Like, instead of it's truly that 3% or whatever you're talking about, like, oh, why, help me understand more. Like,
and to be fair, I didn't say, hey, thank you for sharing. Now I know what I'm, it was a while before I'm like, oh yeah, you're okay. You're right. You're totally right. I better up my game. Who am I in my life? Because that was just a revealing of me, and I didn't want to see it.
But I love that. Even just the response, even the tone you just used here. I hope our listeners could hear it in your voice. It's like when you actually come to that conclusion because you're resilient to your shame, you know who you are, and you're like, oh, you're right. I need to work on that, and I'm going to do some things differently. Like, now, not only are you getting the opportunity to grow into something way more than you possibly could have been before, but in the process of doing that, the byproduct is that that's also building trust with her. Because now you're saying, I see you, I hear you, thank you for bringing that out for me. Like, I'm going to go to work on some of those things. And now she doesn't have to be like, let's talk about trust and safety. She just gets to see your reaction, and you're now meeting it with your own choice of accountability.
Well, tell me if you guys have seen this in your relationships or in clients that you've worked with, that when one partner or your spouse says something that has a pretty good portion of truth in it, and the other spouse goes, oh, okay, I see. They actually both settle down in that moment.
Yeah,
100%.
Right? We can be so heated, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of like this, because the brain sees it. And it's the best in us seeing the worst in us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when that happens, man, because the best in us is what drives us forward. The worst in us is what denies its own existence.
Yep.
So the only thing that'll call that out is the best in us. And when that happens, I change the trajectory of my life, let alone my marriage, but for sure my life, because I start to realize let's go to the flip side. I'm going to steer it back for a second, because we talked about the resolute spouse. But what about the other one? One of the best ones to do in my mind is you got a tremendous opportunity of recognizing what you're capable of in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you want to do about that? Because most of us going, oh, I would never. I did that. I would never. And then I realized, yeah, I'm totally capable of that. So now the safeguards and the boundaries I've got in place for my own life, let alone my marriage, so dramatically different than what it was prior.
Yeah.
Because I know what I'm capable of.
You're honest with yourself.
And that's good and bad, right? Because I want to know both of the stories of not just, oh, I can accomplish anything. No, I can't. I absolutely can't. But I do know what I'm capable of in bad ways too. So how do I put myself in positions and surround myself with people that keep me on a path of self-respecting?
Yep.
I love
It's the shame really gets in the way. Knowing our shadow, knowing our mess makes it possible. I really like the scenario you just gave. Is it either goes to connection because we're both operating in truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if my wife said to me, "Hey, Brannon, you have brown hair," and I said, I do. We're operating in truth. And what's that like for you? How does that feel to you that I have brown hair? Like, if I get all defensive and I don't want to have brown hair, and I'm going to tell her like, well, what about the color of your hair? And blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, like, we're off into wherever, and I'm just in self-protection mode because my shame is there because I can't accept who I am.
Right.
So
I as you were talking about this concept, I actually just was thinking about a conversation I had with my wife just this last week, where she kind of did the mirror thing to me and pointed out some things that I obviously still need to chip away at that I thought I was doing really well at, you know. and I actually went away pretty frustrated and angry. And then when I came back, I kind of gave the response that you had just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what, I've thought about this, and actually I think you're right in a lot of ways. And these are some things that I want to look at and things I want to change. And I think what you were saying, that hush that comes over the relationship, was it actually gave my wife permission to show empathy to me too. Like when I kind of showed up and was like, yeah, I'm pretty frustrated at this, and you're right, and I need to work on this. And now all of a sudden, instead of being the one just pointing it out and being the mirror and be like, you're terrible, she was also the one that was in the space with me to say, and yeah, you can do that. Like, now that's not always going to happen, I don't think, but I think it's an invitation into those spaces.
And Tyler, that also presupposes you've got a history of being able to have said, I need to work on that, and then data that shows you do.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times we will, oh yeah, I need to work on that. And what I've just done is a pseudo move that my spouse knows full well I ain't doing. But I'm trying to solve this conflict and tension between us in the moment. Because
I've never done that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I haven't either. Tyler's the only one that has apparently not done what we're talking about here, Brandon. But it's just, there's an element of who we are bears itself out in our actions, not our intentions, right? That it's that element of, okay, they can rest in the fact that history will show I'm on a trajectory that's different. Because this is the one thing that's important to at least point out too, before we run out of time, is my spouse is not the sole determinant of who I need to become. They are just an influence in it. Who I need to become comes from me, my relationship with God, what I'm called to, the people that I'm in a relationship with. I mean, there's a lot involved in this, but this is not about, oh, I need to just be whoever it is they think, because that's what got me into this problem in the first place. is I let them have too much sway over what happens. You know, that's one of my phrases I got from Dr. Schnarch that I loved, was with a client that there was this issue in their marriage where he was constantly coming to his wife to be validated sexually. And so she finally realized, by being able to grow up, and was able to say to him, I can either inflate your penis or your ego. I can't do both. Right. And that's what she was realizing, is you're coming at me for ego. And as a woman develops and becomes a woman, they see right through that. I mean, a woman has an ability to know when a man just wants sex or he wants sex with her. There's a huge difference between those two. And me coming to grips with what is it that I'm bringing here and what's my motivation, she'll see it if she's paying attention.
She'll feel it. She'll know it on an energetic level.
And a lot of the times the reason we don't really bring this out in the open without something big happening, like a infidelity or disclosure of something that's been going on, is because we've colluded to allow it to just be at surface level that gets the job done. That's the functional
Yeah,
or dysfunctional, depending on where it is. Because it's just, I'm not willing to face the anxiety of saying, you know what, I got a feeling like something's going on. You're not telling me the whole story. I want to ask that question because I don't want the answer.
Yeah. You've colluded at the cost of what you talk about, the blessed few, like the sex, the love making, the intimacy, that a lot of people don't even really know what they're sacrificing.
Sure. And
right?
well, I've colluded also at the cost of a better self-respect with me.
Yeah, yourself. That's a good point.
Having a better relationship with myself.
Yourself.
And I sacrifice that so easily.
Yeah.
Rather than realizing, you know what, one of the best things you guys can do, in my belief, is just building up the boundaries, is those internal boundaries I have, which isn't the personal ones, like how close somebody gets, what they can do while they're personal space. It's internal. This is the agreements I make with myself. If I wake up and I say, I'm gonna hit the gym today, I don't tell anybody, but I have this thought and a commitment, I'm gonna make the gym today, and I don't. I broke an internal boundary. If I break my internal boundaries, I have an incredibly hard time enforcing my external boundaries.
Yeah.
And so we have a phrase on our chest in our living room that just says discipline equals freedom. And that plays out most internally.
Yeah.
If I say I'm going to do something, even if I don't tell anybody, I bloody well better do it because I'm in relationship with myself in this.
And Dr. Corey, everything you've said today has just been, I hope our listeners will go back and listen to this a couple times through, because there's a whole lot you've said that if you listen to it 3 or 4 more times, you're like, thank you so much for your willingness to come on and be so vulnerable, be so real, so straight. How would people find you if they wanted to learn more?
So the website home for me is smr.fm. That stands for Sexy Marriage Radio. And if you just Google Sexy Marriage Radio, you'll find the show. We've been going for 12 and a half years now.
Holy cow. I didn't realize that long.
Yes.
That's a lot of content.
We have this week's episode is 676.
Holy cow. Wow.
It's been pretty amazing to watch what started as a hobby has turned into a little business. But everything I do is online there. You work with me. I work remotely with people all over the world. I've got a book and some resources and a community that's been formed and an academy membership level. We do a getaway once a year, which is coming up next month at the time of this recording. And then I do men's groups. They're mastermind husband groups. That those run every January, and August is when they start. They're 6 months long, and they're fantastic. It's so much fun. One of the most fun things I do.
Nice.
So for any of you guys listening, if you've appreciated this or it's been impactful for you or you know somebody, please feel free to share the episode. We love having you here with us. We love your feedback. One of the best ways to give feedback, especially with a guest like this, is to either go over and check out what he just said or get on and post a review and mention him specifically. So thank you for being with us. Thank you, Dr. Corey, for coming today. And until next time, you guys, keep on keeping on.
See you guys.